Like the feeling in the room when you tell a story that like the audience doesn't know which way to go.
Yeah.
It was such a rush.
Yeah.
So I started like writing a lot of stories, and then when I
Sleepwalk
sleepwalked
was-
through a second story
Yes.
window,
Yeah.
I was like, then it was like, oh, this is a show, and I started working with a director, this guy Seth
Wait,
Barish, who I've done
repeat
all
that.
my
Sorry,
shows.
just repeat that last bit because there are people who may
They don't
not
know.
be familiar.
They don't
So
know,
just
yeah.
repeat what you just said because it's wild.
Yeah, so this is old hat to me because I wrote, a show about it, and then I wrote a book about it and made
And
a
a movie.
movie,
Yeah.
went to
Yes.
Sundance, and it's called Sleepwalk with Me. I have a serious sleep disorder, which some people think is REM sleep behavior disorder, RBD, and it got so bad when I didn't treat it that I jumped through the second story of a La Quinta Inn in Walla Walla, Washington. So that's true. I'm not. Yeah.
The words are so comedic.
Yeah.
And
La
does
Quinta
the
Inn.
fall what wakes snaps you out of that?
So I jumped through. So the dream was, and I jumped through the window like the Hulk, like the Incredible Hulk.
Whoa.
Yeah, because it was the winter. Windows are closed. So I jumped. I had a dream. There was a guided missile headed towards my room. Jumped out of bed. People who have RBD like sometimes act out their dreams in really extreme ways. So I jumped through the window, and then I landed on the front lawn. Kept running, and this is the part that I remember vividly.
Oh my God.
Where I'm running, and I'm slowly realizing I'm on the front lawn of La Quinta Inn in Walla Walla, Washington, in my underwear, bleeding.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh no. But then I realized it. And at that moment, I was relieved that I hadn't been hit by the missile.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're like, oh fuck.
It's like your shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
High action.
Yeah.
Which is great, by the way. Your show
Thanks.
is fantastic.
Thank
and
you,
you're, I'm sure you probably hear this a lot. It's like great actor too.
He is.
Thanks,
Like
man.
you're a great actor.
He is.
Thank you, dude. That's very.
That's
nice
the
of
part
you.
I didn't know. It's like I always thought you were funny. I didn't know you could act like in play
Very
9
good.
parts.
Thanks, man.
But
Good job, Tom.
so yeah, so I jumped through the window and I lived to tell it. And then I did that show became a whole thing.
I remember that show being quite big, but can we go back to the details of like, you go back into the hotel.
Yeah.
Do you have to tell the manager like,
So
hey?
here's what's crazy. yeah. There we go. There's a plaque that we sent them to put up on the wall, and it's there still.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a great follow up to this, which is, in this room, January 26, 2005, comedian Mike Birbiglia sleepwalked out the window. That story became the basis for a book and feature film, Sleepwalk with Me.
Seriously, Google it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this winter, on like the 20th year anniversary, that's I took those photos the night I jumped through the window. That's like the real serrated glass.
Oh my God.
Isn't that wild?
That's crazy.
And so the 20-year anniversary, we took a camera crew back to Walla Walla, and I went to the hotel, talked to the guy from the front desk.
Also, by the
I
way,
interviewed the guy from the front
He was
desk.
still
fun to
there?
show people how comedians travel and
Oh, I
live.
know.
This is like
No,
what
I-
we do.
Completely.
La
Yeah,
Quinta Inn
shit.
for
Oh.
15 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Horrible.
So I went back in January, interviewed the guy from the front desk,
And?
and I go, is it how you remember when I tell the story on This American Life, whatever? Is it how you remember it? And he goes, you weren't in your underwear. That was it.
That's it?
Yeah. Because you weren't in your underwear, but it's funny how memory works. He goes,
Yeah.
you were wearing a robe. I absolutely was not wearing a robe.
Yeah.
I don't own a robe.
Yeah.
There
Right.
was not a robe at the
Not at the La
motel.
Quinta.
No, La
Yeah.
Quinta. It's not the Waldorf.
But it's funny how
Yeah.
memory works. But it's like that. But I interviewed all the people. I interviewed the doctor who put stitches in my legs at the hospital,
Uh-huh.
and I interviewed there were cops who were on the radio that night who were like, oh yeah, this was on the radio. They said there was an incident and this guy's at the hospispittal now. Yeah.
So wait,
That's-
how do they prevent you from doing this now? Do they strap you to
how did you
bed
start
every
to
night?
treat it?
So for a period of time, I was taking, I still take Klonopin, and I know I don't
That's
love
a
it.
knockout.
I don't love it. I've been weaning myself off of it slowly, but it's a lot. And then for a long time, it sounds like a bit, but I slept in a sleeping bag.
Yeah.
And I wore mittens so I couldn't open the sleeping bag. That was something the doctor told me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Put
keeping you
mittens
alive.
on.
Mittens on. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, you could have been on the 18th floor
Oh,
of a nice
100%.
hotel.
So for a long time, I wouldn't stay on the second floor. That's the college I performed at that day. I performed at 2 colleges that day. It was like Whitman College and maybe like Cascadia College. I was on this was like a period in my life where I had done NACA conferences, which are like these college booking conferences.
I never got booked.
And I was doing I don't know, 50, 100 colleges a year.
Yeah.
So I'm like driving around and I'm like, barely making enough money to get by. And it was, and I was so sleep deprived.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was sleep deprivation. So like a big thing in my life now is like,
Get the sleep.
Get the sleep. Yeah.
I remember NACA was such, by the way, you find out about it and you're like, everyone's like, that's what you want to do, bro. You want to get NACA to sign off on you and get college gigs.
Oh, yeah.
And we were like all trying to
Because
get
the
them.
money was
Yeah.
so good.
Yeah.
And remember, you'd have to write like 6 checks. NACA West, NACA South.
Oh, yeah.
Was that just me? Am I the idiot
no,
that
no.
got duped
Yeah.
into writing
No,
6
no.
checks?
No,
It
there's
was a
national
fortune.
one. There's a
Yeah.
Pacific Northwest. That was from Pacific Northwest. So yeah, so
Gosh.
that was how I started telling stories, and then
So then you found you had you had a lane kind of, right? You're like, I have this.
Yeah, it's weird. I did not mean to have a lane, but it ended up being that.
Wait, so after this, were you like, hey, I stay on first floor only? For a long time, probably, right?
For a long time, like my
Jesus.
agent, Mike Berkowitz, would call and just be like, Mike is staying on the first floor. And it was a secret. Like we weren't telling people because I didn't want people to think I was insane.
Yeah.
Of course.
And they'd be like, why? And he'd be like, that's what Mike Birbiglia wants. You know what I mean?
That's his rider.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Did you ever go somewhere where they're like, we don't have anything? Like, you have to be on the 10th floor.
Yeah.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. But then, like, at one point, an engineer explained to me that, like, if you're staying in a good hotel and the glass, you
Yeah.
literally couldn't jump through it.
Yeah.
Like, if you're staying at, like, a Westin or something, like, you couldn't jump through the window of the 10th floor. Like, that's,
Right.
like, essentially, it's the equivalent of, like, jumping into the wall
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. That's a different level of glass.
than Walla Walla.
Walla Wallas.
Yeah.
Ooh, hey Jeans, did you enjoy that highlight? Why don't you have one more click of fun around here? I don't know. Click here or here. Try it out. Have more fun. Why don't you subscribe? That way, every time a video drops, you can be notified. You can send it to your grandmother. You're not going to miss a moment of denim, okay? Try it out.